3:47 p.m. Serenity Valley Hospice Care Facility, Bozeman, Montana. Hallway B, second floor. Security camera mounted above the nurses' station captures a corridor painted institutional beige. A woman in navy scrubs exits room 214. Behind her, an elderly woman using a walker follows, slower, unsteady. They move into the hallway together. The elderly woman stops 6 feet from the doorway. The nurse turns. The elderly woman's arms lift from the walker. The nurse steps forward. They embrace. The elderly woman's shoulders begin to shake. The embrace lasts 4 seconds. The nurse's hand moves in small circles on the woman's back. They separate. The elderly woman reaches up, touches the nurse's face. The nurse says something. The elderly woman nods. The clip runs for 18 seconds total. The timestamp reads 3:47:22 p.m. to 3:47:40 p.m. 4 years later, this footage would be presented in court twice. First as evidence of manipulation, then as evidence of motive for murder. April 19, 2023, 7:42 a.m. A runner on the Bridger Canyon Trail, 7 miles north of Bozeman, sees something pale against the brown earth 20 feet off the path. She approaches. She sees the body, female, middle-aged, face down. The runner calls 911. Gallatin County Sheriff's deputies arrive by 8:15 a.m. They identify the victim through the driver's license in her pocket. Audrey Fisk, 53 years old, single gunshot wound to the back of the head, close range, execution positioning. The body has been there less than 12 hours. Ambient temperature suggests she was killed between 8 p.m. and midnight the previous night. Her vehicle is located 2 miles east on a logging access road. 2019. Toyota Camry. Driver's door open, keys in the ignition, purse on the passenger seat, phone inside the purse. No signs of theft. Her wedding ring from a previous marriage is still on her left hand. Her watch is still on her wrist. This was not a robbery. Detectives canvass the trail. No witnesses. No tire tracks clear enough for casting. The killer used a professional approach. Single shot, body dump, minimal staging. Detectives return to Audrey's background. Audrey Fisk worked as a hospice nurse for 18 years. She specialized in in-home palliative care for terminal patients. Her employer, Mountain View Hospice Services, described her as their most requested caregiver. Patients asked for her specifically. Families trusted her with their dying relatives. She was known for patience, for being present in ways that went beyond clinical requirements. She brought flowers on birthdays. She remembered details. She stayed late without logging overtime. In 2006, she was assigned to Estelle Bishop, a 67-year-old woman with stage 3 breast cancer. Estelle's husband had died the year before, leaving her $9 million and a large house on the outskirts of Bozeman. She had 2 adult children, both living out of state. Audrey visited 3 times a week during Estelle's first cancer treatment. The cancer went into remission in 2007. Audrey's assignment ended. They stayed in touch. In 2009, the cancer returned. Estelle requested Audrey again. This time, it was metastatic. Treatment could extend life but not cure the disease. Audrey began visiting 4 to 5 times a week. Over the next 14 years, Audrey visited Estelle more than 2,200 times. She managed pain medication, assisted with daily tasks, provided companionship during the hardest days. Estelle's children visited approximately 50 times during the same period. Julian, the son, came 2 or 3 times a year. Paige, the daughter, came once or twice a year. They were busy. Julian was a corporate attorney in Denver, making over $500,000 annually. Page was a senior executive at a Seattle tech company making close to $1 million with stock options. They called occasionally. They sent expensive gifts, but they were not there. Audrey was. In November 2020, Estelle updated her will. She called her private attorney, not her son. The attorney came to her home. Estelle was lucid. 3 independent physicians evaluated her mental competency before she signed. He all confirmed she had no cognitive impairment. The new will left $500,000 to Julian, $500,000 to Page, and $8.2 million to Audrey Fisk. The attorney asked if she was certain. Estelle said she had never been more certain. She wanted them to understand what they had lost by not being present. The will was signed, witnessed, sealed. Estelle lived for 2 more years. On January 14, 2023, she died peacefully with Audrey holding her hand. Julian and Page flew in for the funeral. Audrey attended, sat in the back, did not speak to the family. 2 weeks later, the attorney read the will. Julian and Page sat in silence as the distribution was explained. $500,000 each. $8.2 million to the nurse. Page asked if there was a mistake. The attorney said no. Julian said they would contest it. The attorney warned them. The will was legally sound. Estelle had taken every precaution, but Julian and Page did not care. They filed a formal challenge. They claimed undue influence, emotional manipulation, exploitation of a vulnerable woman. Julian hired a private investigator. The investigator found nothing incriminating in Audrey's history. No criminal record, no financial improprieties. But he found the security footage from November 2019. The hallway embrace. He showed it to Julian and Page. They watched it and saw what they needed to see. Julian said it was proof of manipulation. Look at the crying, the vulnerability, the dependence. Page agreed this was grooming. Audrey had isolated their mother from her real family. They submitted the footage as evidence in probate court. The case went to trial in March 2023. Julian and Page's attorney presented the footage. Argued it demonstrated a pattern of emotional exploitation. Audrey's attorney called geriatric psychologists to review the tape. All of them said the same thing. This is not manipulation, this is gratitude. The embrace is mutual. Estelle initiated it. One psychologist noted that Estelle reached out first. That contradicts coercion. The judge reviewed the medical evaluations of Estelle's competency. On April 3, 2023, the judge ruled the will was valid. Julian and Page's challenge was denied. The estate would remain in probate for final processing. Assets would be distributed within 30 to 45 days. By mid-May, Audrey would legally receive $8.2 million. The story aired on local news. Headlines read, "Children contest mother's will after she leaves fortune to nurse." Public opinion split. Some found it suspicious. Others pointed to the math. 2,200 visits versus 50. Julian and Page were humiliated. Their names were public. Their reputations damaged. And they had lost. Within weeks, a woman they believed had manipulated their mother would be a multimillionaire. Julian understood estate law. He had worked in it early in his career. Once the judge validated the will, the clock was running. The estate administrator would finalize transfers within 45 days. If Audrey died before the transfer, everything would freeze. Probate would reopen. Uncertainty, delays, may be grounds to challenge again. But if Audrey died after the money transferred, it was over. Her heirs would inherit. Julian and Page would never see the money. They had 4 weeks. Julian and Page met privately in early April. No lawyers, no spouses. Just the two of them in a hotel conference room in Bozeman. They discussed legal options. There were none. The judge had ruled. The estate was moving forward. Paige asked what happened if Audrey died. Julian explained. If she died before the transfer, probate would freeze. They might get another chance. Paige stared at him. She did not say yes. She did not say no. She just asked how. Julian said he knew someone through his firm, a client who operated in gray areas. It would cost money. Paige asked how much. Julian said $50,000. They agreed to split it. Julian made a phone call on April 7th. He used a burner phone he purchased at a gas station in Colorado. The call lasted 2 minutes. The person on the other end asked for details: address, routine, timeline. Julian provided everything. Paige wired $25,000 from an offshore account her ex-husband had set up during their divorce. Julian withdrew $25,000 in cash from 3 different banks over 2 days. They sent the money through a shell company tied to one of Julian's corporate clients. The job was set for mid-April, before the estate transfer. April 18, 2023, 8:10 p.m. Audrey finishes her shift at the hospice facility. She drives home in her Toyota Camry. She lives alone in a small house on the eastern edge of Bozeman. She pulls into her driveway. She gets out of the car, keys in her hand, purse over her shoulder. A man is waiting beside the garage. He is wearing dark clothing, a mask, gloves. He does not speak. Audrey turns and sees him. She starts to say something. The man raises a Glock 9mm, fires once. The bullet enters the back of her head at a downward angle. She drops instantly. The man checks for a pulse. There is none. He drags her body to a van parked on the street. He drives north into the Bridger Mountains. He leaves her body off the trail in Bridger Canyon. He returns to Bozeman, abandons her car on the logging road, leaves her purse and phone inside to make it appear she stopped for some reason. He is gone by midnight. The investigation moves quickly. Detectives notice the execution style immediately. This is not random. They start with motive. Audrey's family is interviewed. Her younger sister in Billings has no conflicts with her. Her ex-husband lives in Oregon, has not seen her in years. Then detectives learn about the will, about Julian and Paige, about the trial, about the timing. The court ruled on April 3rd. Audrey was killed on April 18th, 2 weeks later, right before the estate would finalize the transfer. Detectives pull financial records. Julian withdrew $25,000 in cash on April 5th, 2 days after losing in court. Paige withdrew $25,000 on April 6th. Both claim the withdrawals were for business expenses. Neither provides documentation. Detectives pull phone records. Julian's phone shows a call to an unregistered number on April 7th. Julian says he does not remember it. Must have been a wrong number. Paige's phone shows encrypted text messages to Julian in the days before the murder. The messages are vague but suggestive. References to taking care of the problem. References to making sure things don't go through. Detectives get warrants. They search Julian's home in Denver and Paige's home in Seattle. They find burner phones. They find more encrypted messages. Julian's messages reference a contact who could handle a job. Paige's messages show she approved the payment. Detectives track the unregistered number Julian called. It belongs to a man with prior convictions for assault and weapons charges. He is currently on probation. His bank account shows a deposit of $50,000 on April 19th, the day after Audrey's murder. The money came from an offshore account linked to a shell company. The shell company has ties to one of Julian's corporate clients. Detectives bring the hired killer in. He lawyers up immediately, but his financial records tell the story. His attorney negotiates a deal. The killer testifies against Julian and Paige in exchange for a reduced sentence. He admits everything. Julian contacted him through an intermediary. Paid half up front, half after. provided Audrey's address, her routine, her schedule. The killer says Page approved the payment. Both of them wanted Audrey dead before the money transferred. Julian and Page are arrested on April 25, 2023. Julian is arrested at his law firm in Denver during a meeting with senior partners. FBI agents walk in, flash badges, cuff him in front of his colleagues. News cameras are waiting outside. The footage airs that evening. Page is arrested in Seattle during a quarterly presentation to her executive board. Seattle PD interrupts the meeting, reads her rights in front of 15 executives, cuffs her. Security footage leaks online within hours. Both of their careers end immediately. Julian is disbarred. Page is terminated. The trial begins in September 2023. The prosecution presents the financial records, the phone logs, the encrypted messages, at the hired killer's testimony, and they present the security footage from November 2019. The same footage Julian and Page used to try to prove manipulation. The prosecution shows it again, but this time they use it to prove motive. They argue that Julian and Page saw a moment of love and compassion and interpreted it as manipulation because they could not accept that their mother loved someone else more than them, that their jealousy and greed blinded them, that they killed Audrey not because she manipulated their mother, but because she cared for her when they did not. The footage that Julian and Page thought would save them becomes the evidence that condemns them. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury returns guilty verdicts on all counts. Julian is convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy. Page is convicted of conspiracy and accessory to murder. Sentencing comes in October. Julian receives life without parole. Page receives 40 years, eligible for parole in 2063. She will be 97 years old. Under Montana's Slayer statute, neither Julian nor Page can inherit from Estelle's estate due to their convictions. The $500,000 each was supposed to receive is forfeited. The entire estate would have gone to Audrey, but Audrey died before the funds transferred. The estate administrator determines that Audrey's inheritance passes to her designated beneficiaries. Audrey had named her younger sister as her sole beneficiary years earlier. The sister, a schoolteacher in Billings, inherits $8.2 million. She establishes a scholarship fund in Audrey's name. The Audrey Fisk Compassionate Care Scholarship provides full tuition for nursing students specializing in hospice and palliative care. Audrey is buried in a cemetery outside Bozeman. Her grave overlooks the mountains where her body was found. Former patients' families visit. They leave flowers and notes. One note reads, "You gave my father dignity when no one else did." Julian and Page will spend the rest of their lives in prison for a murder that gained them nothing. They visited their mother 50 times in 17 years. Audrey visited over 2,200 times. Their mother recognized that, and when they refused to accept it, they hired someone to kill the woman whose only crime was being present when they were not. They had 4 weeks before the money transferred. 4 weeks before their last chance disappeared. They spent $50,000 and destroyed 2 lives to prevent an inheritance they were never entitled to. The estate was finalized in June 2023. The $8.2 million transferred to Audrey's sister on June 12th. Julian and Page were already in custody. The money they killed for went to someone else. The money they believed was stolen from them was never theirs. Their mother made that clear. 18 seconds of security footage captured a moment of gratitude between a dying woman and the person who cared for her. Julian and Page looked at that footage and saw theft. The jury looked at the same footage and saw motive. The difference was presence. Audrey was there for 17 years. Julian and Page were not. That made all the difference.